Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the iPad Magic Keyboard. I've been looking forward to this since they announced the 12.9-inch and new 11-inch iPad Pro, and this starts at $299, and if you have the larger iPad, it's $349, making it the most expensive keyboard I've ever bought. And so this is just the simple packaging like this. Let's go ahead and open it up. Take the wrapper off. And let's take the cover off. Now my iPad Pro is my most used device other than when I'm editing video. So this is one of my favorite devices. So we'll see how it is to use this keyboard. So there's the top. Let's move that and take the keyboard out. There's nothing inside the box. Let's take the wrapper off. And we'll set that stuff aside. Now let's go ahead and open this up, and there's a little pamphlet inside. We'll close it just for a moment and see what we've got here. So it says designed by Apple in California, basically everything you would expect. Let's see what we've got inside. So there's another pamphlet in here. There we go. So it's got the Magic Keyboard, or iPad Magic Keyboard, just a little instruction on how it works. Then we've got our other information, such as warranty card and things like that. No Apple stickers. Now the outside material of the case is the exact same material that we have on the Smart Keyboard cover that I was using previously, and they look very similar. We have a small Apple logo cut out here, and it's horizontal this time, if you can see that, and you've got the same sort of keyboard layout and cutout on the back. So they look very similar, but the keyboards are very different. So if we open up this one, the hinge only opens to this point and then sort of locks into place. So you've got that much movement, and then you can tilt this back a little bit. And then it connects to the iPad with these pogo pins. Now, aside from the keyboard, it actually has a charging pass-through here as well. You can't use it for things like USB-C drives or anything like that, hard drives, but you can use it to charge the iPad. So it frees up not only the port, but also allows you to charge it and use the port at the same time. So it's really nice to have the options of both. Now it's completely compatible with the 3rd generation iPad Pro as well. So just like the Smart Keyboard case, it works with the 3rd generation iPad Pro. And so I have the 3rd generation or 2018 iPad Pro here. You can just snap it into place, and you'll see you have the cutout is a little strange around the camera, but otherwise it's the exact same thing. It fits without a problem. So it will work on the older generation as well. So if you wanted to pick up this case, you can do that. Now, before we take a closer look at the trackpad and the keyboard and everything else, I wanted to talk about the sponsor of this video. This video is brought to you by Paperlike. Now, if you want to protect your iPad screen a little bit better than just what you get with a Smart Keyboard case or something else, you probably want to use a screen protector, and that's where Paperlike comes in. Now, I've installed the Paperlike screen protector on the 2020 iPad Pro on the right, and as you can see, it drastically reduces glare compared to the 2018 on the left. Not only does it do that, it also reduces fingerprints, and just like its name says, Paperlike, it feels like paper to write on. So if I write on it with the Apple Pencil, just write Zollotech here, it feels like paper and sounds like paper. Here, listen to this. So you get the sound and feel of paper, and it's friendly to the tip of the Apple Pencil. Many of these reduce the tip very quickly. This should be about the same as writing on the glass itself. It's much nicer, and if you'd like to check it out for yourself, go to paperlike.com/Zollotech1, and I'll link it in the description below. Now, to hold the iPad Pro onto the Smart Keyboard, it uses a bunch of magnets, and I have some magnet paper here to show you exactly where those magnets are. And if I lay the magnet paper over here, you can see there's a ton of magnets on the left, and then if we move all the way over, there's some more magnets on the right. This helps adhere the case itself to the iPad and make it seem like it's floating. So you have all of these magnets arranged in a specific pattern to match up with the magnets that are on the iPad itself. So that part's really nice. Now the Smart Keyboard feels very well built. You'll see it only opens up so far. So it opens up to this point and stops, and then allows you to adjust the top for your viewing angle. So it's kind of interesting. It's a little bit different, but does give that floating look to it. And we'll take a closer look at that in a moment. The other thing I noticed is it's fairly heavy and very rigid. It doesn't seem like it has any flex to it at all, and I assume that's because Apple probably doesn't want the whole case tipping over when you have the iPad on top. In fact, it probably has some metal in the bottom to keep it more rigid and also give it a little bit of extra weight. In fact, it weighs more than an iPad Pro at 1.56 pounds or 710 grams. So combined with the iPad Pro, it's actually fairly heavy, around 3 pounds or 1,362 grams. So combined, it's got a decent weight to it. And to give you an idea of weight, that is about what a MacBook Pro 13-inch weighs. So the MacBook Pro is a little bit heavier at 1,369 grams or 3.02 pounds, but in general, they're very close. And as far as thickness is concerned, the iPad is actually a little bit thicker than the MacBook Pro. So if I remove the Apple Pencil, you can see that the thickness is just a little bit thicker than a MacBook Pro. Now that may not be a big deal for some people, but it just gives you an idea of its actual thickness. Now the keyboard on this is a scissor switch keyboard, which means it's basically like the new iPad Pro keyboard, and it's basically like the old Magic keyboard. So it's got nice travel to it. The travel to the keyboard is fairly substantial. It feels much better than we had on the Smart Keyboard. So here's the Smart Keyboard that's got this cloth covering, and the keys just feel mushy. So in comparison, they feel mushy. So with the Smart Keyboard and the Magic Keyboard, there's a very big difference between the keys. So let me type, "Hi, how are you today?" so you can hear what they sound like, because they're much closer to what you get with a butterfly keyboard. So we'll type "Hi," so you can hear what those sound like. Let me switch over to the Magic Keyboard, and we'll type the same thing. So you get the idea. I type a little bit different than most people, but let me type it one more time. "Hi." And so if you're a touch typist, this is going to feel much better compared to any of the butterfly keyboards or any others that I've tried for iPads, unless it's maybe a Logitech. So this should work well for you, if I could spell properly. Now, along with that, of course, we've got the trackpad as well. Before we talk about that, this keyboard is actually backlit, and it's powered off of this itself, off of the iPad. Now, this is a great thing, minus one little thing that's going to drive me nuts, and that's there's no function keys along the top. So in order to actually turn the brightness down on the keyboard of the iPad itself, you actually have to go into settings to do that. So if you go into settings, and you'll see I was already there trying to figure out where it is, because you have to go to General, then you have to go to Keyboard, then you go to Hardware Keyboards, then you can turn the brightness down on the keys. So if we turn the screen brightness down, let me turn the lights off in here so you can see what it looks like. You can see that the keyboard is lit up. Now I can turn that down. It will auto adjust itself. So I can turn that up or down or off all the way. And if I turn the screen back on, turn the lights back on, the keyboard just adjusted itself to full brightness. So it will auto adjust, which is nice, but again, you have to go into settings to change that. Hopefully Apple actually updates this in the future and makes it something easy, maybe in the control center. Now, I think the Smart Keyboard looks great. My one major concern about it is that you have to reach up here to turn the volume up and down or go into your settings for the brightness. So that's one thing that I don't really think makes much sense. I don't know why they couldn't have just put those buttons at the top. That would have been much easier for most people, and I think most people would appreciate that. In fact, you do have that same functionality with the new Logitech keyboard that I reviewed the other day. And so if I put this over here, and so with the Combo Touch keyboard, you have all of your function buttons at the top. So if you want to turn your volume up and down, or turn your brightness or your keyboard brightness, you've got all those function keys, which I really wish Apple would have put on the Magic Keyboard. That's so far my only complaint about it. Now, as far as the trackpad is concerned, this is actually clickable in any area you press. So if I press at the top here, you can click on things, and you can use all the functionality that you would expect from the trackpad or keyboard and mouse on this iPad. So if you've been using a mouse or trackpad with it, you'll get the same functionality. And I just outlined the cursor in blue with one of the settings so you could see it a little bit more easily. So if I scroll over these, maybe scroll over the camera, use a 2-finger click, we've got the quick actions or a right click, and you can go to things like take a selfie, it turns on, there we go. Maybe 3-finger swipe up, we go back. We swipe over with 3 fingers, we go back to the same app. Swipe up again, and we're back out of the app. So you've got all of the functionality that you'd expect with a trackpad. The trackpad feels very responsive, just like Apple's typical trackpads do. And I do like that it physically clicks anywhere you press it. So that part's really nice. The keyboard feels very full size. I don't really have any issues with it, and I like that it's backlit. So that part's really nice. Now the case also acts as a smart cover, so when you close it, it shuts it off. Open it back up, it will turn back on. Now the magnets hold it pretty securely, so if you were to shake it like this, it's not going to just pop off of the case, and especially when it's closed, it won't just fall out. Now I think I'm going to enjoy using the iPad with the smart keyboard, where you can just take it off of the stand with you and walk away, leave this on the desktop, use the iPad, maybe draw a little bit, and that would be really nice, and then come back to your desk, leave it here to charge, and it would sort of be like a desktop or something along those lines. Now, it's kind of an interesting angle. Some people may not like it. It only goes back so far and then tilts down like this. So that may be better if it's laying on your chest when you're in bed or something like that. I'm not sure, but you can't really flip it around because the angle only opens this far. So that's something that is kind of odd, but I guess they want you to use the iPad by itself and hold it instead of have a little kickstand on it, something like that. Now this makes it feel much more like a computer, and I think I could use it as a full-time computer since I do use it most of the time anyway, with the exception of editing video. So I'm really just looking forward to a Final Cut Pro, maybe a Logic Pro for some other people, and some more dedicated Pro apps for this Pro desktop. It's as much as a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air anyway, or could be as much as a MacBook Pro depending on which model you get. But let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Now I think it's a great addition, but it's a very expensive keyboard, so we'll have to see how it is over the next few days and see what I think about it. But let me know if there's anything specifically that you haven't heard that you'd like to hear about it in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course I'll link it in the description as I always do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.